hand.
I love that James Gunn talked crap about that because he's like, you people realize he's a serial killer, right? Like, they're making jokes and you love him, but he is a serial killer who eats people, right? You all know this.
No, they don't know this because, like when the first Suicide Squad came out, everyone's like, oh, I want my relation to be shipped to be like Joker and Harley Quinn. It's like, no, you don't.
Welcome to Idiot Block, a comedic podcast critiquing, discussing, and analyzing the media industry through reviews, debates, and historical deep dives.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Idiot Plot. I'm David Yanish. Joining me today, as always, are my co-hosts Alex Ovidal.
Pause to acknowledge.
And Justin Neitzel.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
On today's episode, we're going to talk about, for another episode, Zack Snyder's Justice League. We didn't get enough of it last time, so we're going to talk about it all again and get even more in-depth into the world and genius of Zack Snyder.
Wait, this will be a 4-hour podcast?
Yes, it'll be a 4-hour podcast. I'm just kidding. It's April Fool's Day when we're recording this. And on April Fool's Day, we're talking about movies that fooled us. And these are movies that were advertised as something, but were actually something completely different, for better or worse. But to start off, we're going to bring back a segment we haven't done in a long time. We're going to bring back what we watched. Alex, why don't you kick us off? What did you watch this week?
Well, for the first time in a long time, a year, theaters in LA were open again. So I decided on the 65th anniversary of the 10 Commandments to go see the classic biblical epic on the big screen, which, you don't often get a chance to see the kind of classic epics on the big screen. So I wanted to take the chance to do that. And it was fantastic. The remaster is really good. And it was just so cool to see something that big and grand that's classic on the big screen. And they have a few different dates they're screening it.
Was this on digital or on film?
It was on digital 4K projection. I would have loved to see it on film.
Lame.
I know. All of them are screening because it's the 4K remaster too, so they want to show that off. I would have loved to see this on film.
I'd much rather see that.
It's fantastic.
I'd much rather see that on film than in 4K, honestly.
Fun fact, it also has the biggest set ever built for a film.
How big?
Really big. Well, there's a sequence where they're pyramid construction, and they have hundreds of extras as the Hebrew slaves building it, and you have these giant pillars that they're hoisting. It's huge.
So were you the only one in the theater?
No, I was the only one, probably under the age of 40 or 50, but there are a decent amount of people going to all the showings. And it's actually the remaster was the number one selling disc of the past month, so it's more popular than I figured. I mean, it is a classic, but it's very popular.
I mean, when it airs on ABC on Saturdays before Easter, it always kills in the ratings.
Yeah. And it's funny. We talked about Snyder Cut and how it's this far overindulgent, but it's supposed to be his passion project, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't feel it. This is you feel every ounce that this is Cecil B. DeMille's dream project, and there's so much energy from his direction, but also the acting and the set design. It's it's very hard not to love this movie.
I have not seen it, but I want to. I always just get kind of turned off by Bible movies a little bit because they always just seem dry to me.
Unless they're animated.
Yeah, unless they feature vegetables that talk and sing.
That's the funny thing. This is the least dry one. It's super grand, weirdly horny, and a lot of fun.
Well, now I'm in. Okay, now.
Well, Anne Bancroft from All About Eve. Every scene, it looks like she's trying to bang you with her eyes.
Yeah, but
and everybody plays to the 10th row, and it works perfectly.
That's so weird.
Charlton Heston's all out. Yul Brynner is amazing.
Please tell me he's Ramses.
Yep, he's Ramses.
That makes sense.
He's so good. Yeah,
I mean, I love seeing classics in the theater. I saw 2001 in IMAX, which was amazing. I saw Hateful Eight on 70mm, which isn't a classic, but I got to see something in 70mm that was shot on 70mm.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're gonna see probably more of those kind of events at movie theaters coming up pretty soon because there's still not a lot coming out.
Yeah,
that's why I was kind of curious of how many people were actually in the theater with them. Because I mean, I remember when Tenet came out, and I was like the only one in the theater.
Yeah, it was a lot weird. More people going now, I think. Because even my Tenet screening too, like this, I feel like this had just as many people as my Tenet screening opening weekend here.
Yeah, it's expanding. I mean, Kong Skull on the time of this recording has just come out. It's killing it internationally. It's probably gonna kill it domestically. Like the reports that are coming out are saying it's gonna be huge. Theaters might actually be back. As much as people were worried that they wouldn't be, they might actually be.
I'm looking right now, and at the Universal AMC at City Walk, every single showtime is sold out
For Kong?
Yeah.
It's gonna be huge, which is amazing because the last one did not do that great. So.
Well, it'll also be interesting considering. Well, it's also there's nothing new coming out but that, but. Also, there's also, I'm sure, seat restrictions on how many people can actually be in there.
Yeah, but those will expand pretty soon.
Yeah, next week LA will go to 50%.
Anyway, we're getting off topic.
I guess they even added showtimes for 10 Commandments. So go see it if it's screening near you.
Mm-hmm. And we'll be talking more about Kong v Godzilla later in this episode and also next week as well. But I'm going to move on to my choice. Now, I'm going to talk about what I watched. I'm going to talk about what I played. Because for some reason, I can't really tell you why. I don't know why, really. I decided to play Marvel's Avengers for PS4. It's the new Avengers game developed by Crystal Dynamics with Square Enix. And, I mean, this game's pretty controversial. I think its struggles are pretty well known at this point in time. The game, of course, you play as the Avengers, but if you played games like Destiny or any real modern AAA game, the game is ruined by microtransactions and just random poor business practices and very consumer unfriendly tactics. Now, here's the thing. The core gameplay, I actually really enjoy it. I actually like a lot of what the game tries to do. And the campaign as well, actually a really good story. It tells the story of a world where the Avengers lose. And they have to go underground and try and kind of build back. Like basically the bad guys take over not just the world, but also public opinion. Which I think the Marvel movies haven't really explored that. Which I think that's a super compelling is what if they fail and they lose the love of the people? And it's about them coming back, but they're almost as villains. But this campaign is ruined by random need to grind, so playing large hours to actually advance through the campaign, and the fact that the Avengers are not the lead. This is something that Square Enix has hid for months before the game came out, which was that Kamala Khan, otherwise known as Ms. Marvel, is the actual lead of the game, not the Avengers. They hid that on the announcement. She was not confirmed in the announcement and slowly kind of revealed, like, because it was like, oh, she's in the game. Oh, that's cool. Oh, she's the lead of the story mode. Oh, that's not great. Oh, you always have to play as her. Oh, this is not what I was told this was going to be. And
half the people go, who?
Exactly. And she's so annoying, and she's not a good protagonist in that you want her to shut up because she always talks. She talks so much, and the jokes she makes are not great. It's they're trying so hard to appeal to young people and millennials. They just don't get what we actually want from a game. And
that's always the problem with these writers writing like kids. It's like they never understand them, and they always come off as annoying sidekicks, and you're like, can we kill him?
Well, and a lot of the big moments of the story you don't see because, like I said, the main plot is the Avengers villain having to rebuild. Well, the big moment in the story, which I'm going to spoil because I don't really care. No one listening is gonna actually play this game.
No, I'm not gonna play it.
One of the big moments of the story early on is that Bruce Banner, who's the Hulk, testifies at Congress against the Avengers. That's a big moment. Except you don't see that. It's pushed back into a motion comic cutscene that glosses over when the game condenses 5 years of in-game storytelling. It's this big moment that literally is what broke the Avengers apart. Is Bruce Banner turning on them, and you don't actually see it in the game. So part of that, you have the grinding that ruins actually solid beat 'em up gameplay. You have a DLC strategy that's not going to freaking work because no one is playing this game. Like the player base, I think even 4 months ago on PC was like 1,000 players at one time, which is nothing. And so no one's playing this game. Basically, the bulk of this game is going to be DLC story modes that come out every 3 or 4 months or so. So they're not going to get to what they all announced because no one's playing the game. They're missing out because the first DLC character was Kate Bishop, who's the female Hawkeye, who nobody knows, and the second character was Clint Barton Hawkeye. Why do you have two Hawkeyes who play arguably pretty much the same, apart from a couple different things here and there, as the two main DLC characters? You have Spider-Man, who's only coming out to PlayStation, which is great for me, but of course pissed off everyone who doesn't have a PlayStation console. Now I will say, people complaining about the fact that the characters don't look like the MCU characters are really glossing over the actual issues of the game to find the stupid reason to hate the game. Like, Iron Man's a Robert Downey Jr. Well, of course he's not!
Who goes into a video game? It's not based on any of the Marvel movies, so why would it matter? It's just like the Arkham games. It's not based off of Michael Keaton or Christian Bale's Batman.
These characters exist apart from the movies.
I mean, at least we're like in the old Spider-Man 2 PS2 game. It's like they were basing it off the Sam Raimi movie that came out, so they designed the characters to look like them. But
it says Avengers, so it should be on the Avengers. These aren't the Avengers. These are the Aldi brand Avengers. Oh, come on. I mean, yeah, they're not great, but of all the...
I remember the designs weren't great at all. I remember, but it's like, and you got... I remember you were going to get gear that you could change their outfits, so I mean, what's the big deal?
The gear does not change their outfits. They lied. You have to pay for the cosmetic upgrades and pay for each costume individually, or buy a battle pass for each individual character.
Okay, never mind.
Which is a whole other can of worms of games charging you full price. Obviously, I didn't pay full price for this because I wouldn't dare. But you have games initially charging $60 that in order to actually unlock the full game, you have to pay exorbitant amounts of money to actually get what you're paying for. And that's BS. At least the Avengers is doing the right thing and giving the story content for free, but doesn't really excuse them of the other nonsense that they're doing. Okay, rant over. If anyone has any other comments, we can talk about it, but I made my piece.
I'm not looking. I don't think I'll ever play this game.
and that's a bad thing too, right? Is like this game is like Payday 2, where it's supposed to be about you and your friends becoming the Avengers and going on like RPG style raids and being like heroes together. The problem is no one's friends. Like if you buy this game, your friends don't have it. Your friends aren't going to play it with you. And the fact that if your friends did buy it, you have to play so much of it just to be able to actually go on and play multiplayer, because so much of it is based on that gear crap that you actually have to level up your character quite a bit and play through the campaign. So you're talking hours before you can even play online with your friends.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
For a game that looked like it was like a PS3 last generation game.
Yeah, the best game of 2009.
Basically. I'm like, this looks like it should... I remember seeing the trailer. I'm like, this looks like it should have came out with Batman Arkham Asylum.
And you're not wrong. You were not wrong. It's an ambitious game that fell on its face. Do not play it unless you're really into Marvel or it's super cheap. But that's all I have to say. Justin, if you want to go.
All right. Since you're talking about video games, I might as well bring up a video game that I played not too long ago, and that's Spider-Man Miles Morales. the sort of sequel game to slash spin-off game to Spider-Man PS4 from Insomniac Games. This game is probably loads better than what you played, David.
Probably. I don't doubt it.
It's basically, I mean, you get the same mechanics as Spider-Man PS4, but they change things up to make Miles feel more like his own character, which I really appreciated. Basically, it's Peter is going on a work vacation with Mary Jane to somewhere in Africa, I believe, and he's leaving the town in New York under the protection of Miles Morales, and he's having a hard time coming up with I have to be Peter, and he's just slowly develops and finds his own way of doing things. The game is basically the same. Same setup, everything, fighting crime, going on missions, helping out people around the city. It's a smaller game. It's kind of like Uncharted Lost Legacy, where it's a good story. It's not as long as the regular ones are.
About how long is it?
How long do you think this first Spider-Man one is?
That one's at least 20 hours. I would say.
Yeah, I can't remember how much I put into it, but it was over that, I think.
I'd say maybe 10, 12.
That's not bad. I mean, they're not charging full price for it unless you buy the first game with it.
Yeah, but I mean, same premises and everything, and new characters. That's about all I got. I don't want to spoil it because I know it just came out not too long ago.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet. I should. I don't know why my brain is stupid and decided to play Avengers before Miles Morales.
You probably made the right choice because now this game will just blow you away.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. No choice involves playing that game is the right choice.
The choice was not to play the Avengers to begin with.
Yeah, that's the right choice.
I've mostly just been hanging out on Game Pass until the price drops for that, but I definitely want to play it. I really enjoyed the first game.
It's so good.
And they got
as a Raimi stan.
They got some cool suits for Miles as well. It takes place during winter break, and you actually they do a good job making the city feel cold and everything, and it's the same, but also
games are automatically better.
Yes.
Does it make your?
This is just true.
Does it make your game console is the reason why it makes you feel like it's cold? It can make your game console go and blow a bunch of air out. It's that powerful.
Pretty much.
I mean, I'll play that
on
eventually.
the PS4 because PS5 you gotta be know someone have it already.
I mean, I'll get it eventually. I love the first Spider-Man game. I think we all played it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, we all played it. I didn't love it until about the back half, and when it becomes something completely different.
Well, the cool thing about this one is you kind of learn to become Spider-Man, a different kind of Spider-Man with Miles, where you didn't get that with the Peter Parker one, considering he's been Spider-Man for so long. This is kind of the beginning one that you get to skip, essentially, for the first game.
It's really cool that they're giving Miles Morales his due, because I was never a big fan of the character until I saw Spider-Verse, or I guess I should say Into the Spider-Verse, the animated movie. I think that they did him really well in that, because he is a good character where if you get the relationship with as Peter mentoring him, you actually get some really good story content.
That's one thing that's interesting about this series is we actually get to see him mentored and not just, hey, the other one died, so he's in charge. But the Prowler's in here.
Does it? It's like the movie. Every time when he comes on screen, does it go you get really angry noises at you?
No, unfortunately not. And probably the hardest thing playing this game, because Peter is in it for a little bit, but just the new face is
Ugh.
I went from Spider-Man PS4 because I played it right before this one came out, and then you go to this and you're like, what have they done?
Yeah, for people who don't know, in between Spider-Man PS4 came out in 2018. This game and the remaster of that game came out 6 months ago, 8 months ago, and they redid the face model for Peter Parker, and he looks like a baby. It's pretty scary.
It looks terrible.
Yeah, it's a really bad decision that they made.
Anyways, that's all I got to say about the game.
Okay. Well, with that, we'll move on to our main topic of today's show, which is movies that fool us. So, we all go to a movie, we see a trailer, we go, oh, that looks good. And we've all been burned where we think a movie that looks good or even looks interesting is something completely different than what we expected. So I guess as an example about this, I'm going to jump right into it with one movie, which I think was big. I think disappointed a lot of people, and I think a lot of people felt like they were cheated, and that's Suicide Squad. I'm not talking about the upcoming James Gunn one. I'm talking about the 2016 one, directed in quotes by David Ayer, starring Will Smith, Margot Robbie, Joel Kinnaman, Viola Davis, Jared Leto, unfortunately. and Jai Courtney in his best role in the past 8 years in movies.
Okay.
I don't want to hear your Rome or Spartacus or whatever talk. Whatever we're gonna say.
He's a good side character actor.
Mm-hmm.
Just when they push him into the lead, it's like no, bad.
But
Directed by David Ayer at gunpoint.
Well, Suicide Squad, for people that haven't really seen a lot of it, it came out a year before it came out. They released a trailer at Comic-Con that showed off this super dark, brooding, very Zack Snyder-esque movie where it's this super dramatic action sequences set to this very melodramatic remix of I Started a Joke by the Bee Gees.
Everybody was like, oh shit, here we go again.
It didn't look bad, in my opinion. It did not look bad.
No. It actually looked quite interesting.
And then, a few months later, movie's coming out. We get the first official trailer because the Comic-Con one only was released publicly because it got leaked. It wasn't actually supposed to be released online. It just got leaked, so they put it online.
Which is what happens at Comic-Con all the time.
Yep, it always happens. But eventually we got the official trailer, which is the most famous one, and was actually a pretty popular trailer, which is set to Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. And to me, that trailer was not a bad trailer. But it's when I was starting to see the wheels come off. Because around this time, we're starting to get the rumors that a lot of the movie was being reshot. And I saw the first Comic-Con trailer. I'm like, this doesn't look like the same movie. But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. And then we got the third trailer, which is set to Ballroom Blitz. And that's when people realized we had a completely different movie on our hands from what we were told. But there were still people that thought that we were going to be getting this dark, brooding movie. I wasn't one of them because I guess I have the writing on the wall basically with the marketing.
Well, it also goes to show you, whenever a movie trailer has Bohemian Rhapsody in it, you automatically have to just
run.
Take it with it. It probably won't be good because the Bohemian Rhapsody made Bohemian Rhapsody movie look good. Any trailer that has Bohemian Rhapsody, it makes the movie look better than it actually is.
That's a good point.
How do we get people to line up for a bad movie? Queen! You guys love Queen! But I think even with that trailer, what people started to expect is, to an extent, what it seems like we're getting with the James Gunn one, but it really wasn't that either. The movie's not fun either.
No, it's not.
No.
And it looks fun, snappy. That's the vibe you get if you use a Queen song in the trailer, and it's like the vibe we're getting from the James Gunn one. But we didn't really get that either.
No, we got this weird mix of both.
Frankenstein monster.
Because you're right, you had the two camps of people. You had those that were expecting and wanting a dark, brooding Snyder-esque movie, and those that were expecting the super fun, not really MCU-ish, but kind of along that vein of they're the bad guys, but they're being good guys, and they're going pew pew pew, and they shoot people now, but they're also saving the day. And we got this weird mix of both that did not work at all and pissed off both sides really badly.
What I really wanted, I kind of wanted a darker movie, but I also wanted to be had some dark comedy in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they also were basically showing off the Joker a lot, when the Joker really isn't in the movie at all.
They should have never showed him in the trailer. I mean, you think this is going to be them going after the Joker, and it's not even that.
And most of the scenes involving the Joker aren't even in the freaking movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, cut because he was terrible.
Yeah.
Well, that
Like, wow. This is also one of the worst edited movies ever.
It's terrible.
that's what happens when you get a trailer company to edit your movie.
It's like every major plot scene. Like, you know what's coming because all of a sudden you hear like the first 3 bars of like some popular pop song pop up, like, oh, montage time, and sure enough, every like 5 or 6 minutes we get some weird montage scene set to some snappy song.
Especially when we're introducing all our characters.
Oh, yeah. The one that always gets me, that first Joker scene is like one of the worst butchered in editing scenes I've ever seen. Like, it's impossible to know what's happening. Like, it's just cutting all over the place.
Is that the one where he shoots the tattooed man for no reason?
Yeah, that's part of it. Because there's like 4 scenes in that scene.
Yeah, it's a mess of a movie that you could see the behind the scenes issues in the trailer, but we got a movie that I don't think anyone was really expecting or wanted. I think that's the core issue. But hopefully, if James Gunn does right by us, his Suicide Squad
certainly looks like it
is going to be the one that we want this one to be.
Yeah, the humor certainly seems like that right dark humor balance. You know,
and we're going to get the gore and the violence, but also the fun.
Yeah.
and
I love that James Gunn talked crap about that because he's like, you people realize he's a serial killer, right? Like, they're making jokes and you love him, but he is a serial killer who eats people, right? You all know this.
no, they don't know this because like when the first Suicide Squad came out, everyone's like, "Oh, I want my relation to be shipped to be like Joker and Harley Quinn." It's like, no, you don't.
You really don't. Like that just how popular that became. It's like, have you seen the show at all? Like they made an episode for kids about this that scarred me for life. Like do not.
So.
Like do not. All the hot topic people that are like, I want to be Joker and Harley. No.
Women, run.
I don't think you know what you're saying.
But yeah, Suicide Squad, not a good movie, misleading movie for sure. But I think another pretty egregious example of this, I think for our friend group, I don't think many people know what this movie is, but I think it's a pretty egregious example for us, is Fat Man.
I need to see why it's an example just by explaining what the plot description is and then contrasting that to what actually happens.
Yeah, so Fat Man.
Look at the poster.
So Fat Man is about Mel Gibson as Santa Claus, but like this angry, bitter old Santa who's just like locked away in his shelf or his toy shop. Not really explained why, but he's like this angry, pissed off Santa who's being hunted by a hitman played by Walton Goggins, who's been hired to kill Santa by a boy who got coal. And the trailer for this movie and what they're saying looked like it was gonna be this crazy, funny, dark action movie that looked super fun. It looked like we were going to get Mel Gibson being crazy, violent Santa fighting Walton Goggins, who is great in everything. And we saw this movie all together over a group chat to celebrate Christmas. And oh my God, I don't want to speak for you guys, but that might have been one of the most boring, slow-paced movies I've ever seen. It is not the fast-paced action comedy. It is like a melancholy drama.
Yeah, like what the hell? It's like, and 50% of this movie is legit nothing happening. I'm not talking about like when stupid people say that when there's actually character development happening. No, like half this movie is like watching Walton Goggins drive and shop, and like on the way to find Santa interacting with no one and just literally like buying clothes.
Like literally during the movie. Right before the action showed up, I literally fell asleep.
That was the funny. So for context, to set up, the funniest moment was we were watching this movie. I just hear over my headset this slow, and I go, "Alex, what the hell is that?" I'm like, I don't know. I go, "Wait, that's Justin snoring into a hot mic. He's asleep right now. We're getting to the climax, and he's sleeping."
I've never seen that, but I had that happen in a chat before.
Well, it was
pretty funny.
It was funnier than the movie itself.
Yeah, I know. I wish I was asleep.
It's amazing. It's amazing how slow this movie was, and it's only an hour and 40 minutes.
And the trailer makes you think like it's gonna be this fun action romp, but then you see the movie and it takes itself way too seriously. Like, look, the trailer knew the movie that we wanted, but also knew that that's not the movie that we actually got.
They're just like, oh, make it look good, make it look snappy. When it's, I mean, that's an excruciating hour 40. Like,
and I wasn't expecting a masterpiece.
I was expecting some fun, though.
Yeah, I wanted a fun time.
Yeah, well, when all you're expecting is stupid fun and you can't get that, that's a bad sign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, movies, not great. Do not watch it unless you really just, I don't know, want to be bored for an hour and 40 minutes.
I mean, it had some great potential, and it's just like it wasted all of it.
Well, it's one of those movies that
golf to take a nap.
we go take a nap, have a sleep.
If you want to take a nap, turn this movie on.
Well, it's one of those movies to me that feels like it might have been made as like a money laundering scheme because it cost like $15 million, and there's no way they spent that on this movie. There's no way. And this all went to Gibson and Goggins. There's no way. They don't do anything. They just sit and talk in rooms for an hour and 40 minutes. Nothing happens.
And the random military people.
Yeah, like there's nothing. There's nothing to spend money on in this movie. There's like no visual effects. There's like no action. So yeah, there's something up with that because hell, we could make this movie probably
better. We'd put some crappy After Effects in there, or something.
So, yeah.
Make it look somewhat better.
So yeah, don't be us. Don't watch a trailer for that movie and think it's gonna be great because it's not. And we were even drunk and we didn't even have a good time.
That's when you know it's bad.
Now I'm gonna move to a crazy example of this phenomenon. One that I think just confused the hell out of people more so than a lot of these movies did. And that's Hangover 3. Or is it Hangover Part 3? Whatever it's called.
Whatever bullshit title.
It's Part 3.
Alex, I want you to take the lead on this one because the way you describe this movie always makes me laugh my ass off. So
Yeah,
I'll let you take the lead on this one.
The first half is like, it's okay, it's kind of funny. I mean, it's certainly different and probably a bit fresher than Hangover 2.
And the trailers kind of pitched it as like Hangover Part 2-ish, like comedy wise.
Yeah, and like John Goodman's in it, and they featured him heavily in the trailer. And I mean, I'm going to spoil this movie because you should never watch it. Then halfway through, they shoot John Goodman in the head. Randomly, like this has been a comedy the whole time, and they just blow his brains out. And then the second half, it basically becomes Joker. It basically becomes the Todd Phillips that we have now. It's like it becomes like an action movie, like the heavy comedic relief character from the first two films is Mr. Chow, Ken Jeong, right? His character. And he basically is like, we live in a society as he's parachuting from the sky and killing people. And I don't understand what happened. You're just watching them parachute down the Vegas Strip, like trying to stop his violent mayhem. And that's the moment where I went, how did I get here? What happened?
You have a
It's
beautiful
one of the
wife
most bizarre movies I've ever seen.
in a
Makes
beautiful
me think of that
house.
song.
You ask yourself,
How did I get here?
I mean, I saw this movie at a hotel, and I was like half asleep, but I remember about 2/3 in going, I haven't laughed in a long time, but I also don't think I'm supposed to be laughing at this.
That's the crazy thing.
I'm really confused.
Even trying to be funny, it becomes like a serious, dark action movie. But of course, it's terrible at being that. But like, that's what it's
Because it's also trying to be The Hangover.
Yeah, I saw this in theaters.
Because it's trying to be The Hangover as a dark action movie.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
And it doesn't
You get
work.
The dentist, climbing down a rooftop to infiltrate and kill Ken Jeong's character.
Well, and wasn't the complaint about Hangover 2, right? Like that was the complaint was it was too much like Hangover Part 1 because it was like the same freaking movie.
Yeah, it was the same movie, just change it up a little bit.
And Todd was like, okay, fine. I'll give you something different. And you're like, everyone's like, what the hell is this?
It's not what we had in mind. Hey, your movie just copied another movie. Okay, here's a dark movie. A dark, disturbing, weird action blend that really, again, it previews what Todd Phillips is now, really. It's much more poorly made, but it previews that because it starts to take itself seriously and get weirdly dark.
Yeah, it's not great.
And just like at the drop of a hat, it just becomes that.
I'm not even a big fan of the first Hangover. Like, I like it, but it's one of those movies that was quoted to death before I ever could watch it. So
yeah, I would have been one of those people quoting it to death. I saw it like the first weekend or two.
But like, so I didn't get the hype because I had seen the movie before I saw the movie.
Yeah.
But the second one was disappointing. But the third one is just nonsense. It's insane.
Disaster.
Well, it's also funny because they're trying to retcon the first one too with having Black Doug in here, and it's like, oh yeah, he was a or not a drug dealer, but he was looking for Chow the entire time. It's like, okay.
Oh yeah, they like make this weird like plot like around Chow. The whole thing is nuts. Like,
well, and it's this because it happens a lot with these movies where we have a side character that gets really popular and they make him into the main character, which is like Chow was popular, so Chow has to be the focus.
Yeah, but then Chow becomes like this dark, insane, like Joker figure. It's like, what? He was like literally just comic relief.
The first movie, his whole premise and being there was a joke. He was this tiny Asian man that pops out of their trunk, attacks him and runs away. Turns out he's an organized crime, and they basically mated him like with Mater in Cars 2 into like this weird action movie hero villain type, which that character can't sustain because it's not a main character. The character doesn't have enough substance to support that.
And eventually he's going to get annoying.
That too.
And also, why?
I think the answer was, why not?
Money. Because this movie won't gross.
That's how we get the Todd Phillips we have now. In case you're wondering, where people were like shocked that he made Joker, like it or dislike it. All of us dislike it, but like how did that happen? You literally watched it happen in Hangover 3 if you saw the movie. You literally see it halfway through the movie. Like him becoming like what he is, doing the stuff he does now. Like you literally see it happen halfway through that movie.
Well, and you see it happen like the fan response for Hangover 3 I think reflects that. I mean, you look at the box office total. Hangover made $467 million. Hangover Part 2 made $580 million, and Part 3 made $360 million. And that's only because of the other two.
Yeah, we saw it opening weekend or two because I remember it had a good open, and then nobody else watched it because it was terrible.
Well, even from the trailers, I remember watching it. I'm like, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of jokes, but okay.
I was like, John Goodman. I mean, that's got to be good, right? Oh, nope. They underuse him and then kill him.
But they just made too many of those movies too damn fast. I mean, 3 movies within 4 years.
Well, I think they were trying to get it all done because Bradley Cooper and Zach Galifianakis' star power was starting to rise. They're like, well, we need to do this now before we can't get him back.
Do you remember when they tried to make happen? Do you remember when they tried to make Ed Helms a thing?
Yeah.
The Office tried.
Now he's gone, basically. Rest in peace, Ed Helms. Moment of silence for Ed Helms in his career. But yeah, Hangover Part 3, comedy turned psychological thriller for some reason.
I used to think my life was a comedy. Then I realized it's a tragedy.
So we're gonna do a bunch of like rapid fire movies now. Do a bunch that we can think of. The big one we have to address, which is the one that everyone knows when we talk about these kind of movies, is Iron Man 3. And the reveal that the Mandarin isn't the actual Mandarin; he's an actor.
And how little Iron Man is in the Iron Man movie.
I mean, that's a good point. It's not the part that everyone gets mad about, but that is a thing that happens.
That is a good point.
It's all very misleading.
I mean, the Mandarin thing is the big one. Just because everyone's like, oh my God, Ben Kingsley is the Mandarin. Like that's a really big casting, and then
They turn it into a joke.
yeah, it is a joke.
I think that's partly the reason is like you got Ben Kingsley to do this, and you wasted him.
What a waste of an actor of that level.
I think had you gotten like maybe a smaller known, not so known named actor to do it, it probably wouldn't have gone over so bad. Probably still would have gone over bad, but not nearly as bad.
Right. You got an Oscar-winning actor, like, use him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and again, it goes back to the fact that MCU, other than a couple, like 3 maybe, the villains suck.
And they miscast big actors all the time.
That too.
It's a serious problem that they have. They have lame villains because then it's revealed that the actual villain is Adrian Killian, who wasn't even supposed to be the villain. It was supposed to be Rebecca Hall's character, but they made it Killian because Marvel didn't think a female villain would actually sell.
Ouch.
I mean,
That's an oof.
big time.
Because the comic is Rebecca Hall's character in the comic is the villain of that storyline.
Also, this is the beginning of the Tony Stark cut me off at Chipotle. He literally becomes a villain because he doesn't talk to him at like a rooftop party. Like, wow. Or like he cuts him off in the elevator, whatever he did. It was something really stupid.
No, you had it right the first time. He was supposed to have a meeting with him on the roof.
Oh yeah, and he's not, and he doesn't show up.
Or Tony Stark said he would meet him there, and he went there, and Tony Stark never showed up because he was too busy banging Rebecca Hall.
But yeah, like he's just like just because he doesn't show up at the rooftop, like he becomes a villain. Like it's as ridiculous as the character in Wonder Woman 84 wetting the bed, so he becomes a villain. Like, but the whole MCU Tony Stark thing, like. We joke about the Chipotle thing, but like honestly, I'm half expecting that to happen in one of these movies.
You have some good, like, and the Mandarin that they built up in that movie as like the guy, the anti-imperialist terrorist who is going after Tony Stark for being a weapons maker, is actually an interesting plot that the movie completely ignores throws
away
for standard blockbuster nonsense.
How well that would have tied into the first movie.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
When he's in the Middle East for like half the movie. Mm-hmm. They don't even tie that in because they're planning on making it all a joke anyway.
Yeah, exactly. None of it matters, so why bother trying?
Yeah.
Well, wasn't this the time where they were having some upper management problems where they were arguing all the time about what they should do? Yeah,
this was about the time that the creative council and a bunch of the heads of Marvel eventually fell apart and left the studio. That's partially why Rebecca Hall was removed as the main villain was because they didn't want it, and that was their MO. Their MO at the time was all white male heroes, no Black Panther, no Captain Marvel, no any of that, and Kevin Feige fought for a long time to get them to change that. I mean, Inhumans only exist in the MCU as a TV show because one exec wanted to spite Fox with the X-Men. And it's a shame that Iron Man 3 kind of became a victim of this battle.
It's also bad.
There's also the weird China-only Iron Man 3 version that I want to see.
The other problem is Shane Black, and as much as I love him, he can't seem to direct a big budget movie to save his ass.
It's not a good fit for him. I think he did it because him and Robert Downey Jr. They have that connection from Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, stuff like that. So like they like each other. But I don't think he's a good fit. As much as I love his buddy cop stuff, I don't think that was a good fit doing a studio project like that.
No.
Now, this is a random one that I don't think people are going to know what we're talking about until we explain it a little bit. But our next film we're talking about for Misleading is Batman Hush. Now, for people that don't know, Batman Hush is a comic storyline from Batman. It got really popular in the early 2000s. It was written by Jeff Loeb with art by Jim Lee. And people saw it as like redefining the character of Batman. I didn't really think that.
Yeah, I know.
But it's a good story.
And it's solid. I think it's overrated because it's got some big issues.
And DC,
I think it was a nice addition.
Yeah.
And DC recently has been, of course, making their animated movies, which if you haven't watched them, they're actually pretty good adaptations for the most part. Stuff like Batman Year One, Dark Knight Returns. The Red Sun one's not very good, but that's really not good for the same issues Batman Hush has. So most of these movies have been direct adaptations of the comic storylines. And I'm gonna spoil Batman Hush because it's impossible to talk about Batman Hush without spoiling it. So skip ahead if you actually want to read the book or watch the movie. Don't watch the movie, but if you want to, don't keep listening for a little bit. But is the whole fact there's this mysterious Batman villain who's going after Bruce Wayne, going after Batman, and it's revealed to be Bruce Wayne's best friend, Tommy Elliott.
Which is pretty obvious because it keeps showing you these random flashbacks of him.
But there's also the big reveal at the end that the Riddler is also basically behind Hush. He's been orchestrating. At the time, the Riddler was a C-list villain, and then it turns out he's actually this big mastermind with all these other villains that show up. And kid/teen me was kind of blown away by it. Adult me rolls my eyes. But in the movie, so me and Justin have seen the movie, and of course, we watch it expecting Batman Hush. The end climax reveals that not only is Riddler behind the events of the story, Riddler is Hush himself. And it makes no sense because the movie up to this point runs almost exactly like the comic. So it builds up Tommy Elliott as a character, and then whoop, Riddler's actually the villain without any explanation, except a bunch of thrown in last minute quick exposition to justify their own laziness. And
we were subverting your expectations.
Which I like, but you don't subvert your expectations when you're directly adapting something.
Especially to this point, it had been pretty much exactly the same thing, except for it was missing some of the flashback scenes.
And it was faithful for good and bad. I know that I think the part that Alex, I think you hate the most from that storyline is the Superman fight.
Yeah, it doesn't make any. I hate that part. It doesn't make any sense. It's just there to go, hey, you guys know Superman? Yeah, I do. Why is he in my freaking Batman story? Oh, no reason. We're just saying hi. Okay.
He's just here so we can throw Lois off a building.
It have Rainn Wilson's really bad Lex Luthor performance.
Yes.
But yeah, so this is a smaller movie. No one's probably seen it. But as a Batman fan, to see them do Hush that way, I'm not in love with that storyline. It wrecks what's honestly a decent movie, and it kills Jeffrey Arend has a really good Riddler performance that's ruined by just the sheer stupidity of everything that's happening on screen. Because Hush's face, when Riddler becomes Hush, he has a giant question mark stitched into his forehead. And it looks hilarious.
Hey, I had brain cancer and they did some operations. When you do the stitching, can you make it look like a question mark?
Can you make the big smiley face right my fucking head?
Right, damaged on my forehead. Messed up,
But yeah, and I love Batman animated cartoons. I love Warner Bros. Animation. I love all DC's been doing with these animations. Not necessarily as much recently. Please don't mess up Long Halloween. Oh my god. But this is one of probably what should have been the best one that they did of these new universe movies where they've been adapting some storylines. This should have been the best one, and it's probably the worst.
Yeah.
Because they call it Batman Hush and they didn't do Batman Hush.
They didn't do Hush. It's basically a Riddler movie.
And that's a problem, right? I've heard this from people that don't read comics all the time, which is you're just a comic fanboy. You're just you're a purist, right? That's the word I like to use.
But the problem is you're fundamentally changing the character of Hush.
Well, and that's not my big issue. I mean, if changing Hush sucks, I'm not a big fan of Hush. So really, do what you want with him. I don't care. The issue with that is. I expect things to be changed when I say comic book movie. However, when you are directly adapting a specific storyline, and you say you're adapting the storyline and you're trying to be faithful to a specific storyline, I expect you to follow the storyline.
Also, if you're going to change it, you should make it good. That would be my suggestion.
What?
Don't make it nonsense. Like, Riddler being Hush is nonsense.
It is. It changes nothing, but ruins everything. Yeah, that's BS. But our next movie is a fun one that I think tricked all of us as kids, and that's Kangaroo Jack. Because that movie's marketing.
I was hoping we wouldn't come to this, but here we are.
Because that movie's marketed as like a movie about a fun talking kangaroo in a sweatshirt that raps, and that is not what the movie is at all.
Like a weird mob drama thing that also has really cringy kangaroo rapping, but like the kangaroo in the movie doesn't even talk. It's like a hallucination, right?
Yeah. It's not real.
It's like, what am I watching?
Did they have like cactus juice or something, or just from being in the sun too long?
You mean peyote?
I think it was something like that.
Well, because it was supposed to.
It's been a long time. I tried to purge this from my memory, but that rap is seared into my brain, unfortunately.
I don't think I've ever actually proved this. I've tried to. I don't think I've actually proved this, but I think that this movie was supposed to be an adult movie that they re-edited and reshot into a kids movie.
It is. I think it literally is.
Like that's how it comes across.
That is the story behind it.
Because it
was supposed to be some stoner
initially the
comedy.
film was titled Down and Under and was shot as an R-rated mob comedy in the style of Midnight Run. Keyword, and was shot as an R-rated mob comedy. However, when the film's producers saw the rough cut, it didn't work as expected, so they put in more kangaroo.
And it doesn't work then either. I don't know what's more insane, Kangaroo Jack the movie or the really bizarre direct-to-video animated sequel that everyone watched on Cartoon Network when they were sick at their grandma's house.
Definitely the sequel. That's because you go from a live action to all of a sudden it's like animated movie, and they reference stuff that happens in the first movie.
I mean. You know, everyone's saying hashtag release the Snyder Cut. Can we get a hashtag release the R cut of Kangaroo Jack?
It's just going to be some generic ass movie, probably.
And the Scooby-Doo one, too.
Yeah, and that. Well, you can read that online, Justin. I can't send you a copy of that script, so just so you know, I cannot send you that. So just let me know if you ever want me to not send you it, because I
Okay.
Christopher Walken was in this movie.
I'm looking at the sequel, and Ahmad Best is in the sequel.
Did you know?
Did you play the kangaroo?
Misa.
No, he plays Louis Booker.
It's the kangaroo.
Did you know that one of the writers of Venom was one of the writers of Kangaroo Jack?
Okay.
God, this movie's. I'm looking at the poster of Kangaroo Jack right now, and I can't stop laughing in my head.
Well, the poster alone is already a freaking.
How did this get a $60 million budget? That's the real question here.
Well, you were probably right. It was probably some.
Yeah, they
money laundering idea.
I think it's because they like how much they changed. Like they literally shot the entire movie and screened the entire R-rated mob cut, and there was one kangaroo scene, probably the hallucination one. Literally, there was only one scene with a kangaroo, and then apparently that one tested well. So they literally reshot. Added a bunch of scenes with the CGI kangaroo and then recut it as a PG movie. So it's probably because they made two movies.
I mean, it feels like they did. Was this the one where they fart a lot, like in the style of Blazing Saddles?
I think so.
Because I remember I saw this in the theater. I'm not proud of that fact. I should probably yell at my mom next time I see her for taking me to see this movie. Like, what is wrong with you?
That's right. I had Anthony Anderson.
Again.
Fat Anthony Anderson. It's like a different person back then.
Yeah.
And
Again,
Michael Shannon.
I don't remember much of this, but I do remember seeing it.
I mean, me and you watched it at 10 in the morning on Bounce TV. when we lived together.
Yeah.
I don't remember why we watched it because I don't know nothing else.
Well, because we used like a satellite dish kind of thing.
I'm sure there was better things to watch than Kangaroo Jack.
True.
Everything.
Maybe we wanted to see how it held up.
God, this monstrosity of a movie.
Now we've all had to admit that we've seen it.
Oh, everyone has. Everyone from our generation has probably seen Kangaroo Jack at some point in time. Like, the real shame is if you like Kangaroo Jack.
Then I don't know what's wrong with you.
Here's one that I hate that is super misleading, and that was The Dead Don't Die. And I think, Justin, I think you wanted to see it, but you didn't because I specifically told you not to.
Yeah, I was planning on going to see it, and you said don't. And I'm like, you're like, it's not what you think it is. I'm like, okay.
Because the trailer for this movie sells it as a fun, quirky zombie comedy about this massive cast. I mean, we're talking Bill Murray, Adam Driver, Tilda Swinton, Steve Buscemi, Danny Glover, Selena Gomez. Like a bunch
Chloe, however you say her last name is in it, too.
Who? Chloe Sevigny. Sevigny. I can't say it.
However, yeah.
But
apologies for butchering, of course.
But it's like portrayed as like this movie about this town that gets attacked by zombies, and they have to fend them off. Like Bill Murray and Trevor are cops trying to defend the town. The trailer is fantastic. It is a great trailer. I thought it was gonna be a fun, quirky black zombie movie, like dark comedy. I was in.
It kind of gave me a Tucker versus Dale, or Tucker and Dale versus Evil kind of
right.
vibe.
It is just as slow as Fat Man. It is slow, it is boring. It's filled with weird political allegories that I didn't really understand or truly care about or get. It is so bad. It is so lame. Yeah, if you want to go horror comedy, watch Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. Do not watch the Dead Don't Die. Watch the trailer, laugh at it for like 10 seconds, and then move on with your life. Do not actually watch the movie. And it sucks because it's Jim Jarmusch who should know better than to make a movie like this. But I feel like the movie he wanted to make was the trailer, but because of the cast he was dealing with, he couldn't actually make that movie because of scheduling. Because most of the big name actors don't actually interact with each other.
Oh, really?
If they do, it's briefly. For the most part, they're all on their own. And that's part of the reason why it just doesn't work. It's terrible. Do not watch it unless you really hate yourself and really want to waste 103 minutes. Again, it's one of those films. It's like 100 minutes, but feels like it's as long as Snyder Cut. Feels like it's 4 hours long. Now, the next movie we have is one that. I think you guys put this one on here. I don't know if I put this one on here, but we have 3 billboards over Ebbing, Missouri.
Well, I expected to talk about the actual issue it acts like it's about. Like, the plot line says that she's trying to find responsibility for her daughter's rape and murder, but it's kind of used as like a sideshow. Like, it's not really a core part of the story because it becomes so scatterbrained. It
kind of gets forgotten why she's using the billboards.
That's a good point.
Exactly.
It becomes more about the billboards in general.
And about racism? Because of the one cop who's like horrible, and then the movie's just like, actually, he's okay now. I'm like, all right. I feel like he hasn't earned this, but okay.
I should correct myself. It's 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri.
It's a long title.
It is a long title. Usually, that this is not long title means good movie.
I feel like in some ways, though, Martin McDonough is the king of misleading trailers, for better or worse, because In Bruges is kind of treated like
that's also misleading. Like, although ultimately, I think I'm on the side of that. It's positive because it becomes more thought-provoking.
Yeah, it's portrayed as like a dark kind of buddy comedy that becomes really dark and thought-provoking and dramatic. 7 Psychopaths was advertised as like a quirky action comedy when it's actually pretty contemplative and pretty dramatic and dark at times. That's one of those movies that I just sat in silence for like 5 minutes after I watched it. I think three Billboards is worse than both those movies. Because you're right.
strongly disliked it.
It gets twisted, but not in a way that's actually good. It gets twisted in a way that that leaves the interesting premise of this woman trying to get accountability in the police department, and instead makes it more about. I mean, they make it character driven, but not in the right ways.
Kind of has a lot to go. Kind of shows what's going on nowadays too.
Mm-hmm. But there are also some good examples of this. I think are good. I think the example that comes to my head when I think of like good examples of trailers that kind of tricked me and fooled me is Cabin in the Woods, which was marketed as like your standard, horror movie, but the teens in the cabin getting murdered, and instead was actually kind of a really good satire. I wouldn't say what happens, but it's a damn good twist. Another good example, Alex. I know you said Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah, well, I think the entire trailer essentially was the youth camp portion, and it's like, very comedic on that level. And not that it's not a very funny film, it is, but it's like this incredibly heartfelt coming of age, complex drama about how hate is taught, and like. I did expect that to be like comedically told, but like, knowing Taika, like it could have gone the Blazing Saddles route of just like, ripping on it, but it takes both approaches and also becomes like this incredible emotional drama. And I did not expect that at all. Like I did not expect the emotional power of the movie when I went to go see it. And I was very excited to see it.
You expect a dark comedy about being a Nazi, and Taika dressed up as Hitler, and you're like, oh, this looks like fun. Then all of a sudden he just comes in and throws some haymakers and makes you feel kind of depressed, and you're like,
it's like, why am I crying in the theater right now?
Why Taika? Why?
It's an emotionally crushing movie that I wasn't expecting to be as emotionally crushing. Oh, even though everyone was saying prepare for that.
Best Picture, and it won Best Screenplay because it was something much more, I think, than anyone expected.
Everyone was saying to be prepared to be crushed because the script was posted online back when Taika thought it wasn't going to get made, and so people knew what was coming. I didn't read the script. I'm like, you guys are full of it. It's Taika. He's like, oh, nope, this is sad.
Yeah, and I didn't know anything around that when I went to go see it. I was like, oh, yay, Taika.
Exactly.
But another good example, though, of a good one that I love this movie. I love it. But Duncan Jones's Moon.
Yeah, I almost don't want to talk about why it's misleading because it would like spoil it.
All I'll say is watch the trailer. Just watch the trailer and then watch the movie. If you want, you really should just watch the movie without watching the trailer. But if you want to be fooled and misled, then watch the trailer, then watch the movie. Because the trailer will pitch you one movie, and the movie will just, that movie will mess with your head.
And because I think like it definitely has a big shift at a key structural point in the film, but I think both parts are very good. It's like, it starts as one way and I'm very interested, and then it shifts and it's like, okay, I'm even more interested. I definitely didn't expect this.
Mm-hmm. Now we have one major
the way good sci-fi does it, makes you think and keeps you guessing.
Yeah, it's super contemplative. The script for it is genius. I'm not quite sure what happened to Duncan Jones as a director and writer. He's become terrible all of a sudden.
He went the way of Neil Blomkamp.
But yeah,
he made Warcraft.
He made Warcraft, which is it's so bad. It's so I can't watch that movie. But Moon is good. Watch Moon. We have one final movie to talk about that I think is probably the biggest example of this whole phenomenon. One that I think fooled all three of us. I know I for sure was, and that's the 2014 Godzilla remake by Gareth Edwards.
Talk about a one that you're disappointed that it faked you out.
God,
yeah, literally one of the greatest trailers I think I've ever seen.
It's incredible,
and it is a complete and total fabrication. It never happened.
Well, it's interesting because most of the trailers are made up of footage from like the first third of the movie,
mm-hmm.
and they make you think.
They did a very good job with the trailers of not showing Godzilla too much.
But they did a really bad job of the movie of not showing Godzilla enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was great when they built up to his first reveal, but at this point, you've revealed him. Why are you hiding him from me?
Yeah, because that's really the two core issues of the movie, right? Is that Godzilla really is not the lead monster of this movie. It's called Godzilla. The first trailer had the amazing shot where there's people halo jumping, and you see Godzilla move in the dust behind them. It's amazing. It gets you hyped. But the movie itself,
the shot of the movie too.
yeah, still amazing. The movie, but the actual movie is about them fighting these things called Mutos or whatever the heck, like these other monsters that no one cares about.
It should have been. It was advertised as a People versus Godzilla movie, like the original. I don't understand when, especially when the parts of that are there before it completely shifts with Bryan Cranston's character are really good.
And
that's another thing.
That's the other big part.
I was enjoying the hell out of this movie, and then Bryan Cranston dies, and then the movie just kind of halts.
Yeah, the energy is just
until the final battle,
because he's the whole personal connection with his wife, and he was part of the disaster, and it's just sucked away.
Well, that's the part to connect this to our topic, right? Is that Bryan Cranston was sold as the lead.
Yes,
he was sold to everyone as that he was the main character, and you kind of believe that for the first half hour until he dies.
Well, even when he died, I'm like, oh, he's not dead. He's not dead. And then I'm thinking, like, wait, he said everything he said in the trailers. Son of a bitch, he's dead.
Well, there's the key,
I
right?
didn't believe it until like 20 minutes later. Then I'm like, holy shit, he is actually dead. And they knew that. They manipulated it because this is literally coming right off the final season of Breaking Bad.
Yep.
This is when Bryan Cranston was the biggest thing, and they had him for the first 30 minutes of this movie. So they sold, and it's even bad structure because he completely drives the entire first act. He's the driving force of the movie, and then he's gone.
And then he dies, and the plot begins, really. But that's a part...
And the plot ends.
But that's the part that you have to read into. That I knew that he was going to be dying early when I first saw the movie. Because the movie lists all the casts, and then goes, and Bryan Cranston. That was the moment where I went, oh shit, he's going to be the first to die, isn't he?
Yeah, for me, I was so caught up in how cool of an intro sequence it was
it's so
that
good.
I wasn't reading the cast list because the intro is really cool and so is the music. So I wasn't even looking at the names, so I didn't see that.
Yeah.
It distracted me then, too. It fooled me then.
Yeah.
It fooled me during the credits.
Yeah, I saw that. And I guess that's the big issue with this movie, I think, for me. I still kind of like the movie. I just really wish I got the movie that I thought I was getting. Because that movie in my head was amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
and
I agree. It's still a good movie. I like everything till Cranston dies, and then it's basically like a half hour before the final battle, and everything in between you could cut because nothing happens.
It's pretty eh.
And they keep faking you out.
We talked about Terminator Dark Fate is the best 3 out of 5 movie ever. This is the worst 3 out of 5 movie ever. Because it should have been amazing, and it was amazing for 30 minutes.
Well, and they keep faking you out. Like probably the part that everyone in the theater most disappointed wasn't Bryan Cranston's death. It was when it sets up the first big monster fight in the movie. Godzilla squares up. He roars at the other monsters, and then it cuts away to a freaking shot of this dumb kid watching the news with news anchors going, hey, did you guys see this really cool monster fight last night? Oh god, it was so awesome. I wish you guys saw this monster fight. Like, yeah, so do I.
My theater had literal like sighs when that happened. Like there were literally like people like
well, I could handle it one time. But when you do it 2 more times after that, then it's like, okay, buddy, you're dangling the thing in front of us, and we're about to punch you in the face just to get it.
Yeah, because the other one was the door closing. I agree
with the slow build up to revealing Godzilla, but at that point, like he's there, we've seen him. Just do stuff.
Make a simpler CGI model if you can't have him be on screen for too long.
Well, I didn't think his design was that elaborate.
But it's big. And it's big, and that's expensive.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, is if you were gonna do it, you could have left the first one where it's dark out. You can get away with a little more bad CGI when it's dark.
Yeah, I really wish we got the movie that we were promised. If you wanted to see the movie that we were promised, I highly recommend you guys watch Shin Godzilla. It's the recent Japanese one that came out, I think, 2 years after this one. It's exactly the movie you wanted this one to be.
Sign me up.
It's not amazing, in my opinion, because the CGI is really bad. It was made like a tenth of the budget of this one. It made it cost like $15 million, and it looks like
that money probably went to Cranston.
But Godzilla is terrifying. Like, he looks scary in this movie. The whole premise of the movie is basically government bureaucracy versus Godzilla. In that it's basically it's about trying to defeat Godzilla with government red tape. Like, it's not visually the best, but the writing's fantastic. It actually has good human characters. It has a good human plot. It's something that every person that was disappointed by the 2014 Godzilla, which pretty sure is everyone who saw the 2014 Godzilla, it's a movie that everyone that saw that should see. It's so damn interesting.
Ooh, this Godzilla looks terrifying.
Yeah. Look up.
I keep seeing them recommend on YouTube, like, him entering his final form, and like I can't click on it because I want to see the movie.
Yeah, like he looks scary. He looks terrifying. The way his eyes move is one of the most unsettling things I've ever seen in a movie. Now, granted, most of the time he just kind of stands there and does nothing because they couldn't afford to actually have the character move too much. That was too expensive. But we at least got something a little bit, I think, more akin to the classic Godzilla. Before Godzilla became kind of a parody of itself and became just this weird...
That's a weird thing. Like, people forget the first Godzilla was like commentary. It was like this big social piece, and now it's like, monsters go burr, which they're fun in that, but
hey, at least it's not the 1998 one with Matthew Broderick.
God, that one's so bad. It's just Jurassic Park, but bad.
We got that and Planet of the Apes, like, in rapid succession, two horrible remakes that completely forget the commentary of the original.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Don't get me started on OG Planet of the Apes. That movie's phenomenal.
Amazing. Except then we'd argue about Charlton Heston, and then this podcast would never end.
Yep. Much us crying about Bryan Cranston dying and Godzilla will never end because I will never forgive you.
Bullshit.
I will never forgive you, Gareth Edwards. You took
what happened?
You took the movie away from me. Why? And give us Aaron Taylor Johnson, who can't act or forgot how to act.
He doesn't do anything.
He's like Jai Courtney, like I said earlier. He's a good side character, but he cannot lead.
No, he could lead in Kick-Ass.
Yeah, he does lead in Kick-Ass pretty well.
And leads great. It's for some reason when they haven't played a normal dude, it's just like, hey, hello, wife. Hello, son. I am Soldier Army Man.
Hello, sister, wife.
Is there literally any personality to him in this movie? I don't remember a single.
No, it's why he was cut from the sequels.
Yeah.
Because where do you go with a character that doesn't have a character?
I guarantee you, if Bryan Cranston had been alive that whole movie, Bryan Cranston would have been in every single one of these sequels. Mm-hmm. Because, he was a good character.
I mean, the only people that have character were Cranston and Watanabe.
I bet Cranston would have been basically Kyle Chandler.
Yeah, you're probably right in the sequel. Or he would have been Ken Watanabe, and he would have
sacrificed
himself up for because the plot demanded it. There's the thing though, Ken Watanabe. Right. To be fair, this movie did give us "Let Them Fight," which is probably one of the greatest memes to come up of any recent movie.
Which we do every time we start an argument. One of us will send a GIF, be like, "Let them fight,"
because it's what you do now. Because I mean, they knew what they were doing with that part. I should also say that I saw this movie on opening night in IMAX, which was a fun experience. I mean, I think it's one of those instances where I enjoyed watching the movie more than actually enjoyed the movie itself, because like when Godzilla roared, all the seats shook.
Well, the one scene where he rips the other monster's mouth open and just does the atomic breath right down. It's like, oh.
That's an everybody clap scene. That's what that is. It's every stand clap because that was awesome. But
although, like, for me, like, I was just disappointed because, I mean, this was like my most anticipated movie at that time. Like, me and all my friends like rushed to that theater to watch that movie.
And it's so disappointing. And that 10-minute end monster battle is pretty fun. It's not worth all the buildup though.
No.
Right.
But then the sequel is like, what's that? You want monster fights? Okay, this movie's all monster fights. You get what you fucking deserve.
Just horrible plot line.
That's the one thing about the sequels is, like, I think Gareth Edwards was better at shooting the action scenes and making them feel huge. Where in the other movie, the scale doesn't seem quite right.
That's because they made him too big.
It's certainly the best.
They made him too stupidly big where he can't really interact with anything else because he's too huge. Like, they had to change King Kong just to make it so King Kong would actually fight him. Because like King Kong,
big. How? I don't know. He got big.
Because King Kong, the climax of the King Kong.
He's supposed to climb the Empire State Building.
He's him climbing the State Building. No, he's as big as the Empire State Building. I really hope. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I really hope he uses that as a weapon. That would actually be pretty. That would actually be pretty freaking sweet.
We've seen it. Justin and I have seen it, right? Did you watch it?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay. I watched it last night.
I'm watching it as of recording this upcoming weekend.
My plan is either tonight or tomorrow to watch it.
Because my wife loves Godzilla. It's her favorite franchise ever, I'm pretty sure, and she would murder me if I watched this without her. So I have to wait now. It's great. Being married's awesome. Highly recommend it, kids.
Should have married someone who wasn't so into movies.
Yeah, but that would never have lasted either for very obvious reasons.
He wouldn't be married.
I'd be single. Boom! Problem solved. But with that, that's all the time we have for today. We've been talking for a long time. Thanks for listening to yet another episode of us rambling that we call Idiot Plot. If you like what we do, what we talk about, be sure to like and subscribe to us on Spotify, on YouTube, on Anchor FM, on Google Podcasts. We're at all those places. If you want to talk to us, comment on our YouTube channel. We'd love to hear your feedback. What movies fooled you? What trailers gave you the wrong impression of a movie? We'd love to hear it. Be sure to check us out on Facebook to keep up with all of our updates, and also follow us on Letterboxd. It's a great app for people that want to kind of share movie reviews and see other people's movie reviews. Our links are available on our YouTube channel. So, like I said, thanks for listening to that episode of Idiot Plot. I'm David Yanish, joined always by Alex Overall and Jess Neitzel. We'll see you next time.